Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about this topic of, should you forgive people that have caused you mental or physical trauma? Let me just start by saying, I'm not a trauma expert by any means. Just using my own knowledge of life to explain my opinion. Um, to set this up, the other day a friend and I were having a conversation, and he talked to me about how his father, um, as punishment, would slap him and his siblings if they didn't follow his instructions. Um, I think now, older, he's been able to reflect on that trauma that it's caused him and his siblings that he really hadn't acknowledged or addressed until, he learned more about mental health um, and things like that. And he was asking me, what's your opinion on forgiving him for his actions? And I think, before saying anything myself, I followed up by saying, do you know if your father was slapped when he was growing up? And, my friend kind of laughed and said, "Oh, well, yeah, of course. That was the culture. His father and his father's siblings were all, you know, slapped from a young age if they got in trouble or, and even in school, teachers would use rulers or things like that to punish students. Um, that was just the norm in his father's country and at the time of his father's childhood. And as hard as it is, the reason I ask that question is, you know, anytime someone does an action, there's a sense of empathy that you should have in terms of, and again, I'm not condoning his father's actions towards him and his siblings, but remember that certain behavior is learned, and when you know no other way, or you're brought up on a certain way, that's normal to you. Unless taught otherwise, people continue with the actions that they've learned over those years and they repeat them. And so, you know, in terms of answering his specific question, I mean, I can't answer that because, um, that's a question and an opinion he and his siblings are going to have to form based on, his father's upbringing and things like that. But what I can say is, have perspective of the way your father grew up and also have perspective on, and think about, was he ever challenged to change his behavior? If you feel like no one ever challenged him or something like that, then, as hard as that is growing up, it might be the right thing to forgive him because, again, as I said, he didn't know any other way. I think the best way to approach a situation like this is really to have a conversation with him and ask him, why did you raise us that way? Maybe tell him and express your feelings of, how that upset your behavior, upset you. And I think if your father listens and has no regrets, I think it's fair to be mad at him. But I think if he listens and has a lot of regret and apologizes, I think it's worth giving him, a little bit of forgiveness. And again, uh, this is a specific example. When it comes down to, forgiveness and forgiving someone who's caused you mental and physical trauma. I mean, obviously each case is different. You know, um, certain things, certain actions are inexcusable. I mean, um, someone who sexually assaulted you, that's grown up and been educated on what consent is, what assault is, I don't think they necessarily should be forgiven from your side. Um, and so I just think take in the contextual nature of the individual situation, have a conversation with the person if you can, and then form your own opinion. I think, it's okay to not forgive someone, even if you love them, you know. Um, I think there are certain actions that are unforgivable. And it's fair for you as an individual to hold loved ones to that standard. I hope that helps. I know it's kind of a pretty serious and deep topic, but let me know if you have any thoughts. Yeah, thanks guys.